Oh,
Now we are live, Paul. You're always
hi,
jumping ahead.
Nick.
you know. And it's not, yeah, for the ones who are confused, it is not Tuesday, it is Thursday. You're totally right. We jumped 2 days because I was traveling and, yeah, duty called. So we had to postpone it and yeah, late. So we couldn't even, I couldn't even, um, yeah,
You were in the
announce it. That it was,
Pyrenees.
yeah, I couldn't even announce it that we would reschedule it. So for the ones who were waiting for us on Tuesday, sincerely, my apologies. It won't happen again. Paul, I'll give it all to you for chapter
Fantastic.
4. You should
Okay.
be ashamed. I'm curious. I'm curious. You should be
Yeah.
ashamed.
Okay, so we're going to be doing chapter 4 of Mistaken Identity, Doug Dane's book. There's some things in this chapter that, in this story, there's some stories in this that you may find a little shocking, or, it depends. One of the stories relates to something that happens to some animals, so I just brace yourself on that. But it's all about you be ashamed. You should be ashamed, and we all suffer from shame or guilt, which diminishes our value, our sense of worth, and that is what this chapter is going to talk about. And then we'll have a chat, Nick and I, about the chapter and bring up some points. So let's get straight into it. You should be ashamed. Shame, a painful emotion caused by consciousness of guilt, shortcoming, or impropriety. When others try to hand you shame, reject it. Shame is toxic. If someone says you should be ashamed of yourself, it's coming from their own shame or their judgment of what you did. Shame is about diminishing one's value or worth in the eyes of others or of themselves. The truth is, you should never feel ashamed for things you've done wrong. Most of the things you've done were based on what you thought was right and wrong, which was formed by rules, values, and beliefs you inherited. Your actions are always because of your beliefs. In other words, when people say you should be ashamed of yourself, it comes from people trying to bring attention to transgressions or so-called shortcomings. Some people like to focus and harp on our shortcomings. Your shame may have come from rules that didn't make any sense. Remember when you were a kid and you didn't follow the rules. You were told that you should be ashamed of yourself. Maybe your parents should be ashamed of themselves. But like you, they inherited the same rules they were judged by. It's insidious. I was ashamed of myself. When I was bad, my mum would yell at me, "You should be ashamed of yourself." She should have been ashamed of herself for the way she treated me. But it wasn't her fault. It wasn't my fault either. If I felt ashamed for some of the things I was doing. As I grew up, a dark side seemed to grow in me. Witnessing the violence was taking its toll on me. I remember when I was 7, I lived in a foster home on a farm with a Mennonite family for the summer. My dad had been arrested for beating my mum. The police took him away, and my mum was hospitalized for weeks to treat her injuries. We were taken from our home by the police and social services and placed in foster care. One time we went to a neighboring farm for the day, and my brother and I and our foster brother were left alone to entertain ourselves. I felt so ashamed about what I did that day. We chased chickens around the yard and slaughtered them by kicking them and stomping on them. I was ashamed. I felt sick about what I did. I felt guilty, of course, and that's healthy in the moment because it's getting your attention to something you've done wrong. But guilt should not be carried on. And if you do carry it on, it breeds more shame. But I was 7 years old and I didn't have anyone to help me address things I was doing wrong or what I felt guilty about. That fueled more shame. I couldn't be honest about what I did because I felt guilty and ashamed. I was always worried about the punishment I would get because of I was constantly being punished. Luckily, the family fostering me cared about me. They cared more about me than I did about myself. That saved me in some ways. When I was returned home that fall, things got worse for me and escalated. When I think of the men who sexually abused me, I don't think they should be ashamed of themselves. They were guilty of the charges and they were convicted, but I'm saddened by their stories, which caused them to do what they did to me. It's a shame that they turned out that way. Our social system can breed shame. Victims of child abuse feel ashamed. I remember when the police detectives knocked on my door one night. I had just been returned to my home by the paedophile who had kidnapped me in order to avoid police arrest. The detectives took me down into the basement to interview me privately. They showed me photos of me and the men and asked me what I knew about the men who had abused me. They scared me and I felt threatened. They left quickly and left me alone with the guilt and the shame. My father couldn't do anything or offer anything. I wish someone had just said, "It's okay, Doug. It wasn't about you. There's nothing wrong with you. Don't be ashamed." But I was offered nothing. I was left with numbness and shame. Weeks later, I sat in a hallway of the courthouse waiting to be called to testify. The time never came, and I never had to testify. I remember feeling scared, but also wanting to speak up. I was 15 and a minor, so my identity was protected. That inflamed my mistaken identity and my shame. The criminals at the time were the men who had abused me, but I was left in an emotional prison, and I felt like a victim. The system tries to protect innocent minors, but I believe it only furthers their guilt and shame. The system makes me feel like something is wrong with me. The system makes them feel like something is wrong with them. It's wrong that children are abused, but in my case, it was wrong that I felt ashamed. Now, that's not the case in every situation, but I believe we need to stop breeding toxic shame. Where does shame end? Where does it begin? That's what we need to change. I'm no longer ashamed of myself, and neither should you be. Whatever you have done in your life that you're ashamed of, perhaps you paid the price already. Perhaps you've been punished. You've punished yourself enough, and it's time to let go. Shame can kill your dreams, and it can kill love. It's also causing people to kill themselves. It's shame people feel. Uh, it's a shame people feel shame through no fault of their own, and they are struggling because of it. So that's the end of that chapter. It's a pretty heavy chapter. And of course, Doug, as you hear in that chapter, had some horrendous experiences in his life. And it doesn't mean that you have to have experienced this level of incidents to have a mistaken identity.
No, not at all.
I felt a lot of shame in my life for the same sort of things. It can be, if you think of people who might say to you, whether it be at school or wherever, you should feel ashamed. You should be ashamed of yourself, and the effect then that has on you, and what you think you should be doing in your life, and it starts to affect who you feel you can and can't be.
Yeah, I can recall to that. I had a period when I had a very successful business, and then I didn't make them. Yeah, afterwards, it's always easy, but afterwards, yeah, I didn't make the best decisions at one point. We were growing too fast to things I didn't see coming. I was thinking success was never ending, and afterwards I had to close that company. I had to let go of very good employees, very good team, and that got me to that shame. But studying this material and then really getting into it, I was able to forgive and let go that situation,
Mm.
because you're becoming aware, like what Doc is describing, that shame just comes from an awareness. It's because you did at that moment the best thing that you were able to do.
Mm. And of course,
And,
who are you forgiving?
well, yeah, I'm forgiving myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm forgiving. Forgiving myself, but also, yeah. In the beginning, it's always you. Yeah, it's because of that it happened. It's because of this that I had to take that decision, or those
Mm.
persons were not kind or nice or correct towards me, and that can also create that feeling of shame and blame.
Mm.
But once that you understand that people act always in the best interest at that moment, also if it is the most stupid things that they do, you always act to preserve yourself, and not to, yeah, and to survive in some way or form.
Mm.
So, and if you don't know better, you can't do better.
Mm. I was listening to a story by the founder. Who's the founder of Virgin? I'm trying to think of his name.
Branson.
That's it. And he was talking about when he'd started his first little business, because he was dyslexic in times when people didn't understand what that was. But he had, I think, some really lovely family, and he left school at 15 and started a small magazine called Student. And at
Yeah.
the time, there was like Vietnam War and all this stuff. So there he was in Leicester Square with some other celebrity. Well, he wasn't a celebrity at that time, but he was with some celebrities. And two other people gave some brilliant speeches, and then he was asked to do it. And he just muffed it. He started, got a few words out, and then that was it. He just run off into the crowd. He just wanted to disappear. And you think that shame, or how he perhaps felt at that time, would have probably finished a lot of people, but he didn't. He kept going. And we all have these things that happen to us, and because of the programming of the world and the way it works, and how people then feel you should behave, um, we we don't seem to have the confidence, a lot of people don't, to just be themselves, do what you did, forgive themselves for the things they get wrong, and then let go of it and keep moving forward. Because we have so many people we're hearing all the time who seem to struggle to be themselves.
Mm.
Isn't that crazy that we struggle to be ourselves? We're
Yeah, but
too busy.
I believe if you struggle to be yourself, that at that moment you're not yourself. You're trying to keep up appearances to your environment to be something.
Exactly. And we
It,
get so used to doing that, we forget who we truly are.
well, yeah, I don't think that you forget who you think you are. You just paying too much attention to the outside environment, and you're matching yourself to that. But if you just stop doing that, you're becoming yourself again, or you are yourself.
Right, right. But how many people are aware of the fact that they are possibly, they feel this frustration inside of them, but they feel like they're almost like in this cage where the door's actually open, but they
Mm.
can't step out and be themselves. Something's holding them back, and they don't know why.
Yeah, because I
Because,
think what they do is that they're standing in front of a mirror, but in the mirror they don't see the reflection of themselves. They see the reflection of the environment, the expected self,
mm,
or the just self, or so they have so what they see, how they see themselves, is not how they are, but how they match themselves to the environment where they're in.
mm.
So if you can, once you understand that principle, and you can let go of that a little bit, you're becoming your true self, because then you know that you have a capability to control your mind.
Let me
If the
ask you a
mind,
question, Nick.
yeah,
Sorry. Do you feel you've always been your true self?
no, I feel that since I started to interest me in this material, I'm coming closer to myself every day. Like, it's
Hmm.
like, but no, certainly not. Certainly not that I had long periods where I was matching up with the environment. I was like trying to be or to act or to do as I think that I should act, think, or do. Starting to buy, yeah, there was a certain moment. My first business, it went like, whew, and my business partner, he was, and all my environment, they were wearing high fashion branded clothing, and I started to do that. Yeah, I had also go to those shop. I also buy expensive stuff. I never have done that. I never had the interest in fashion. And at a certain point, I start to do that. Like, yeah, I need to wear Versace. I need to wear things like. I never felt comfortable in that.
Mm. So something was it's like, when you're a child and you go to your first day of school. I don't know. My mum and dad said to me, just follow all the others. Follow all the others. Just do what they do.
Mm.
This trust trying to give you the best advice they can, and but that's what we end up doing. We're watching what everyone else is doing. We're thinking about who's on social media and what we should be looking at, and we go by the outside world and what we need to, but we still feel frustrated, because what we truly need to do is to understand our true identity and
Mm.
who we really are, and why we've picked up all these different challenges with things like shame, or we don't feel worthy, um, and we tend to blame ourselves, and but this is one of the things that you can literally let go of, and your mind starts to clear. Now, Doug always talks about how, look, this is really, really simple. And I'm always amazed when I think about all the stuff he went through. And yet he's managed to come through, be a successful person in business and in his life, and with his family. He's got his daughter and everything. And yet he had to go through all of this as well. So, um, you know, I still have stuff I have to deal with, and I never went through anything as horrendous as this. Doug always says, you don't should never compare. But I still have stuff that I want to do, and I'm having to work on that invisible kind of stake in the ground, which has rope or something around me that's still holding me, as you know, it does with the elephants when they're little and they're stake in the ground and they think that's it, they can never get away. And all we need to do is just walk and it will just fall out of the ground. So it's an ongoing thing all the time.
Yeah, but
And
I think that will, as long as you progress or not progress, you will have that, because you will always, those limits, you will always have to conquer them. You always have to push the bar a little bit higher.
yeah,
And you will always, yeah. Why aren't you doing the things that you will do in 3 years from now?
mm,
Why don't you do them now? Yeah, you can question yourself. Yeah, because what is it that I don't? And you can see if you, yeah, you squared the book, you squared to taking a quantum leap. That's in that moment that you can let go, like a lot of weight, like okay, and then you like a hot air balloon, you go off to the next level, and then you're just staying there, you're hanging there, and then you understand, oh, I have to let go a little bit weight off again, a little bit shame off, a little bit forgiveness, hop, and a little bit more faith, more trust, and then you go again for the next height. It will never, it as we are, that's the thing. As if you accept that you have infinite possibilities, you also accept that you have infinite growth possibilities. So in whatever stage that you are in your life, you will have to you will have to sacrifice some beliefs for some new beliefs.
mm.
You will
I
have to
think
let
that's really
go
good
something.
advice. Yeah, I think that's really good advice, particularly because like you were talking, we were chatting before we came on, and I know in one of your businesses you're, really, really busy at the moment, and you're loving it because you're kind of teaching people about things, you're guiding them, you're helping them understand information, and I know you love that sort of thing, and it shows with the things that you've been studying and learning that's why you're seeing this success. And what was it you said? You just don't care. Not that you don't care, if that makes sense. You do care, but you're not thinking about it anymore. You're just doing it.
Yeah, I like to compare it if when you jump into the river. If you have you ever done that? So you just jump in the river and you let float yourself, like you don't. At that moment, you don't think about to getting to the edge or the water or just jump in it. Last year, I went for rafting with one of my daughters, and on the second year in a row, I managed to, at a crucial point, to fall out of my boat. So, and then you have to, the best thing what you can do at that moment in that high current, like very wild thing, is don't struggle. Let go. Go with the flow. Just turn yourself in a good direction and go. Don't try to swim because you will exhaust yourself. Just let go and wait for the next stop, and there you can catch the board or can get your boat or whatever. But when it goes hard, just let go.
Yes.
Don't fight it. And that feeling, I have something in life also that you say, okay, let go. It turns right away.
And that's one thing I think Bob Proctor always said to Doug as well. And it's one of those things that's hardest to do because it feels counterintuitive. You think, no, that's the last thing I should do. I need to hold tighter. But
yeah,
yeah,
that's what Bob always said. Is slow down to speed up.
Yes.
Slow down to speed up. And then that slowing down is that letting go, is that the mental resistance. Slow it down, and then you'll see that you speed up, that everything goes fluently, that you it's
Be more deliberate.
and once you're becoming aware of that mechanism, I feel it like a little bit addictive. to getting in that zone, like, okay, I'm cool. And now sales coming in, and this money flowing in, and everything goes. This year, in the 3 first months of this year, we have already done, not completely, but 75% of our annual turnover of last year.
That's wonderful.
And I
Congratulations.
didn't work harder. I didn't do anything. I didn't hustle more. It's not that my days were longer, and now I'm a little bit busy because we need to deliver a lot. We have to, but that's the fun side of it. But I don't feel like maybe I do more. If I would say, yeah, actually, Nick, you're working more hours more, but I don't feel like I'm working more.
Mm.
When it was last year before, it was a little bit too calm. Then you feel like you're working very hard and there's no results.
Mm.
It's a very strange situation or feeling. If you let go and you trust, that things speed up.
Mm.
And once you notice that, once you have been aware of that situation, you really, bit by bit, you can bring you back to that situation. You can like, okay, calm down, and then you feel that you're speeding up again.
Mm. Okay, listen, I know you have 2 of your wonderful daughters with you this evening, so
Yeah.
I appreciate your time. So I'm going to bring us in for a landing. I'm just going to read out the meditation here. Therefore, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. That's a meditation from Romans that Doug likes. Again, this isn't a book about religion or all that sort of thing. It's whether you believe in the universe or the source or whatever it is, it's just if you meditate and think about whatever it is you choose to, these things can be helpful and allow you to find that calmness that sometimes you need. And in the action points, it says here, it's time to let go of your shame. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Whatever you're ashamed about, you are forgiven. It's not your fault anymore. List things you feel ashamed of and tear up the list. Bob used to say, I think, make a list and burn it, literally. But, we don't want you to burn your house down by mistake. So tear up the list. Thank God for, or whatever it is whoever you believe in, for being forgiven, and vow to leave your shame where it belongs, in the past. And remember, we don't live in the past. Your shame isn't serving you. It's only holding you back. Your shame might be contagious and you don't want others around you to suffer. Don't worry. There is more to come on how to do this. So stay with me. And this is a very tough chapter, but these were things that Doug really needed to share, because this is how he eventually got to his cure of understanding his true identity and understanding how to be himself. So it's a tough chapter, that one, but we'll keep moving on. Chapter 5 next time.
Okay, looking forward to that. Paul, thank you for your wisdom, and we see each other next week.
Thanks for your wisdom, and send my very best wishes to all your family, as always.
I'll do. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. All the best.